Imagine grabbing those crisp new Nike kicks and lacing up, ready to crush your day only to find out they're made under conditions your gym coach would call a bad life choice. Nike's Sweatshop scandal isn't just about sneakers. It's about how a brand synonymous with just do it tried to not do it when it came to worker rights. From student protests to unpaid wages, Nike's scandal journey shows that sometimes the toughest battles are waged off the court and right in the boardroom. The initial fallout, Nike's image plummets. Imagine being the world's biggest sneaker brand only to have your slogan, "Just do it," twisted to mean "just exploit it." Welcome to Nike in the 1990s, a company that went from beloved sportswear giant to global symbol of labor exploitation. Back then, exposes showed that Nike's contractors in countries like Indonesia and Vietnam were paying workers a meager 14 cents an hour while they toiled in unsafe, grueling conditions. Nike initially denied responsibility, arguing it didn't directly oversee these contractors. But in the eyes of the world, Nike wasn't just contracting labor, it was contracting its values. Public outcry grew, and Nike's iconic swoosh was now being seen as the stamp of corporate abuse. The brand's battle wasn't on the courts but in the court of public opinion, and the fallout was fast and fierce. The turning point, CEO Phil Knight's 1998 apology. With Nike's reputation in freefall, its CEO, Phil Knight, took a bold step. In 1998, he publicly admitted to the problem, confessing that Nike products have become synonymous with exploitative labor practices. Knight's statement was a landmark moment in corporate transparency, a rare instance where a major brand leader openly addressed the scandal. But more than just admitting fault, Knight laid out specific steps for change. Nike would raise the minimum age for workers, ensure safe factory conditions, and improve factory monitoring. Consumers felt a glimmer of hope that Nike might finally be committed to ethical reform. But many still wondered, could this apology really turn things around, or was it just another PR move? Nike's journey toward redemption was only beginning. The birth of the Fair Labor Association, a new era of transparency. In 1999, Nike co-founded the Fair Labor Association, a partnership that included human rights groups and businesses, aimed at setting labor standards and conducting factory audits. This was groundbreaking. Until then, transparency was rare in the corporate world. Nike went on to publish a list of its factories and began issuing reports on labor practices, something most companies of its size wouldn't dream of doing. For the first time, consumers could glimpse into the factories that made their sneakers. However, critics argued that transparency was one thing, but real change was another. Nike's transformation efforts had begun, but many remained skeptical, waiting to see if these actions would result in substantive improvements for factory workers. Audits and accountability. Can they really detect labor abuses? To show it was serious, Nike launched third-party audits to monitor its factories. But these audits, while an important step, were far from perfect. Take, for instance, the case in 2023 where a factory in Vietnam underwent 26 audits, yet none detected severe wage theft and unsafe conditions that a worker-led investigation later uncovered within days. This incident underscored the limitations of traditional audits, which are often too closely tied to corporate interests. Critics pointed out that audits paid for by the company itself were less likely to reveal harsh realities. Calls grew louder for Nike to adopt independent, worker-centered monitoring systems that would ensure accountability from the ground up. For consumers, the question lingered. Were these audits real change or just corporate smoke and mirrors? COVID-19 and unpaid wages, a scandal within a scandal. The COVID-19 pandemic of 2020 added a new layer to Nike's labor issues. Over 4,000 workers in Cambodia and Thailand alleged they were owed a combined $2.2 million in unpaid wages and severance after factory closures left them without jobs. Nike's response? The company maintained that these workers had voluntarily given up their earnings, which only fueled public outrage. For many of these workers, who were already living on tight margins, this loss was catastrophic. Labor rights organizations rallied, arguing that Nike was once again failing its employees when they needed support the most. In many ways, the pandemic acted as a stress test for Nike's labor practices, revealing that promises of reform were not always matched by meaningful action. Investor pressure. 2024's annual general meeting showdown. Nike's 2024 annual general meeting wasn't the usual routine, it was more like a reckoning. In a rare move, major investors submitted a proposal demanding Nike adopt stronger, worker-led monitoring systems. These investors cited Nike's failure to uphold ethical labor standards as not only an ethical concern, but a financial liability that could harm brand value. Traditionally, investors focus on returns rather than ethics, but this shift indicated how deeply Nike's labor controversies had impacted its financial reputation. By pressuring Nike to adopt a stricter, worker-driven monitoring system, shareholders were underscoring that ignoring labor issues would come at a high cost. Student-led campus protests, a new generation's demand for change. Nike's Sweatshop scandal ignited protests not only among workers but also among student activists across the United States. Groups like Students for International Labor Solidarity organized rallies and boycotts, demanding that universities refuse to sign contracts with Nike until it guaranteed fair labor practices. These students argued that their schools should not profit from exploitation and called for ethical partnerships. This sweat-free campus movement placed Nike under unique pressure from a young generation increasingly unwilling to ignore ethical issues. Losing university contracts posed a reputational risk for Nike, as its brand had long been intertwined with youth culture and sports. For Nike, the stakes were high. These students were the future consumers who could either embrace or reject the brand's values. Corporate social responsibility reports, meaningful change or marketing. As Nike tried to repair its image, it leaned into corporate social responsibility, publishing annual reports detailing improvements in factory conditions, wages, and worker safety. These reports positioned Nike as a champion of worker rights and sustainable practices. Yet for many critics, these glossy reports didn't align with the on-the-ground realities still faced by factory workers. Was corporate social responsibility a real attempt to foster change, or simply a marketing strategy to win back consumers? The corporate social responsibility reports highlighted Nike's transparency, but ongoing labor abuses and protests made it clear that there was still a gap between Nike's brand image and its operational reality. Sustainability goals, ethics beyond labor practices. In recent years, Nike has expanded its commitment to include environmental responsibility. By 2024, the company had pledged to reduce carbon emissions, minimize waste, and use 100% renewable energy in its factories. These sustainability efforts aim to attract eco-conscious consumers and address another set of global challenges. However, labor advocates caution that environmental initiatives shouldn't eclipse the importance of fair labor practices. For Nike, these goals marked a delicate balancing act, being both eco-friendly and socially responsible. Yet, as many argue, the push for green practices must complement, not overshadow, ethical treatment of workers who remain the backbone of Nike's global operations. The road to redemption is still uncertain. Despite Nike's progress, its sweatshop reputation remains a haunting legacy. Nike's journey from labor exploitation to ethical reform offers a lesson on the complex challenges of corporate responsibility. Recent protests, shareholder demands, and unpaid wage controversies revealed that Nike's battle with its past is far from over. As a corporate giant, Nike's experience shows that real reform requires more than words and well-polished corporate social responsibility reports. It demands consistent, systemic change and a true commitment to workers' rights. For Nike, the stakes are high. It's a question of whether the company can fully break free from its sweatshop past and truly earn its place as a champion of ethical and sustainable business practices. From protests to policies, Nike's journey through the sweatshop scandal is a lesson in accountability and a reminder that the race for ethics isn't always a sprint. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more eye-opening stories. See you in the next one.